Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me again for Grace with Paul Gray. We're looking for a few days at the concept of hell and when it actually started invading the church, because it wasn't there when the first church started, right after Jesus died. And I want to make sure I give credit to the Brazen Church online for a lot of the information I'm going to give you today, and for Julie Ferwerda for her wonderful book, Raising Hell, Christianity's Most Controversial Doctrine Put Under Fire. All right, today we're going to talk about the invasion of hell into church doctrine and how it ultimately started with the invasion of eternity. Words like eternity, eternal, and everlasting don't truly exist in Scripture. Those are English translations. They're all derived from the root Greek word aion, which means an age or an eon. That's where we get our English word eon. So we take a phrase like aionos ton aionen in the Greek, shows up several times in the New Testament, like in Romans 20:10, for example, and it is traditionally translated as forever and ever. But here's the problem. The word aeon, A-I-O-N, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, means age. It doesn't mean forever. And the word ton, T-O-N, means of. It doesn't mean and. So for example, Abraham was the father of Isaac, not the father and Isaac. So the phrase forever and ever is completely mistranslated. All three words are mistranslated. What it actually says in the original Greek is ages of the ages. Now, we see this root word aeon every time we see eternal, eternity, forever, or everlasting in the English. But all of those words have to do with the concept of ages, not what we would call eternity. Now, so why are we even bringing this up? Well, because ages played a crucial role in the way the early church fathers viewed life. It was a highly significant paradigm of how they viewed God, the life they were in at the time, and the afterlife. Due to the history of the biblical text and the numerous influences in popular translations, we've been left with a very Plato-like focus on this concept called eternity. But that's not what the first church understood it to be at all. They didn't understand that until St. Augustine came on the scene 300-400 years later. He was a student of Plato, and he started interpreting Christian doctrine through Plato's teaching of the eternal soul. Plato made several philosophical arguments that have ironically come to define what we believe in Christianity. First of all, Plato believed that the soul was separate from the body, and the soul was fundamentally pure, but tends to become deformed through association with the body. Well, quantum science has certainly debunked that, but Christianity should never have bought into that to begin with. Second, like his teacher Socrates, Plato believed that the soul itself was immortal, thus necessitating an eternal destination for the soul after the body dies. And then thirdly, Plato proposed that good actions result in a reward in this life, but more importantly, a greater reward after death. So it was based on works. And similarly, bad actions, according to Plato, would result not only in consequences in this life, but even greater punishment after death. Now, Plato got some of his ideas from prevailing Greek mythology, including the locations of Hades and Tartarus, words that have unfortunately been translated into English as hell. In Greek mythology, Tartarus is a location deep below Hades, where the Titans were enslaved and the wicked were tormented. According to Plato, this is where divine punishment was meted out. But that's not what the church believed at all. Now, St. Augustine, here's what he said about Plato. He said, the utterance of Plato is the most pure and bright in all philosophy, scattering the clouds of error. Those ideas that Plato espoused and that Augustine got from him and started putting into Christian thought were not from the Bible and were not what the early church fathers and the early church people believed. They were Greek philosophy. But we have unfortunately spent centuries reading them into the biblical text and even translating the biblical text through their lens. But if you go back before Augustine, you'll find 5 centuries of church fathers who never believed those things, never thought in that way at all. So I'm setting the stage here for tomorrow when we're going to talk about how hell started invading church doctrine. Hope you'll be with me then. Thanks, everybody. See you later.